This is everything that is wrong with youth football today. Well, not everything, obviously, but most of it. Some of you will be saying, "You idiot," as a straw man argument. No one is using cones as the only means of practice. To which I will say, yeah, I absolutely agree, and I'll get back to that in a second. First, though, what is wrong with this? And perhaps more importantly, why does the kid who looks like a superstar using this on a Monday vanish the second a real defender shows up in a game on Saturday? There are 5 main things that makes this cone my mortal enemy. This is another thing in a long line of more or less useful things that is supposed to make kids better football players. It's a way for parents to use our money to drive skill development and a seemingly straightforward process to get our kids going from beginners to being really good, skillful players. So what's the issue? The first and main issue is the principle of specificity and the transfer of skills from practice to a performance setting. In this instance, the game of football. This has no resemblance of anything that goes on in a football match, other than the fact that it might be positioned on the pitch and that there might be a ball somewhere in the vicinity. There is no interaction with an opponent, a teammate, a tactical shift. It can't move or tackle. In fact, there is most often no reason to make any real decisions when using this at all. The activity is predetermined by a coach, and all players have to do is follow the instructions. They do get better at the cone drills, so it's quite easy to see that the performance in practice improves. But the transfer of this technical ability to real skill in a game is, well, highly debated at best and completely useless, and is taking away from practice time that is actually beneficial at worst. And that distinction between technique and skills is crucial here. Technique is the mechanics. It's your kid's ability to kick or dribble a ball when no one is guarding them. It's how they move their feet. A skill, on the other hand, is the performance. It's the ability to use that movement, that technique, to solve a problem in a game. It's not just that they can kick the ball, but can they kick it past the defender at the right speed to a teammate who's moving? Being able to do that is what makes a kid skillful, not just being able to complete a cone dribbling course in 5 seconds or less, or remembering the right order in a passing drill. This is why the cone superstar of Monday vanishes in games. It's not a lack of talent, it's a lack of specific information. Mondays, the cone gives them all the information they need. It's still yellow or orange or whatever colored cones they use. And it's still right there. Most of the time at least. On game day, the information they need is moving. It's aggressive and it's changing every millisecond. Because they spent Monday practicing mechanics without game-like information, their brain has no idea how to bridge that gap. I would argue that time in practice could be spent doing something actually useful, like having practices that look like the game, so that what our kids are learning is transferring to game day. As the most recent summary of the research concludes, non-linear pedagogical approaches generally result in greater effects when developing tactical skills, while most literature shows there are no significant differences between approaches when developing technical skills. In this instance, the non-linear pedagogical approaches are more games-based practices that aim to make practice as representative as possible at the level the kids are at. Linear pedagogy in this instance is a more traditional approach where fundamental skills and technique are practiced outside of the games in order to get closer to the best way of doing things and to get more repetitions in that technique. So why would you have your kid practice technique outside of a game setting when the summary of all research done in the field concludes with, at worst, games-based training is equal for developing technical skills, and at best, it's also far more effective in teaching them tactical skills at the same time. Secondly, this is a way to organize practices so that they look clean, controlled, and ordered. Someone must definitely be in control of this situation. It looks so neat. The fact that it is mind-numbingly boring for the kids participating, not to mention anyone unlucky enough to be watching, isn't really mentioned. Taking all the fun and effective team practice time out of the beautiful game, when we know that enjoyment is a big predictor of future success, and more importantly, of future participation in youth sports, that should raise all the alarms. Third, cones are used to force kids to develop perfect technique. I'm not arguing that there aren't good and less good ways of kicking a ball, but that there exists a perfect technique, that's a lie. No two kicks are ever the same. The defender isn't at the same spot, going the same direction, at the same speed. The teammate isn't positioned exactly the same. The pressure is different, and a million other things make all kicks in a game different. Instead of teaching kids how to adapt to different situations, we are forcing them to repeat the same movement over and over, probably in the hopes that they at least develop this muscle memory or that the technique will be automatic. But as I said, technique and skill are two different things, and this rote repetition isn't really effective at teaching kids to solve new and unfamiliar problems that happens all the time in the game. Fourth, this is an easy way for coaches and parents as well to copy a good-looking drill from somewhere on the internet and plug it straight into your kid's practice session without any thought to how it might be having an effect or why it was chosen in the first place. I don't mean to belittle coaches or your efforts as parents. I am trying to show that it takes practice and skill to help guide your kids' development. And if you are interested in improving how you support your kid, you can absolutely learn to use best practice principles and apply them with success yourself. This paper here could be a great place to start. Just don't expect it to magically solve all of your kids' problems without putting in any effort from you as a parent or from your kid. Fifth and last today, this is a symptom of something that is close to my heart. It is thinking that injury prevention has to be the boring stuff done in the warm-ups after having to threaten kids to do it, and that these isolated exercises are a good protector of our kids' health. It is not. Oh, it is certainly better than doing nothing. These warm-up programs do reduce the risk of injury quite a bit if they're done, and strength exercises that are part of these warm-up programs are a very good way to improve physical performance, don't get me wrong. But coming back to that principle of specificity again, saying that we get better at what we practice, well, we get better at doing the injury prevention exercises. But does that mean that we can't do better by being more creative, designing practice sessions and warm-ups that are more enjoyable and mimic the real game in a better way and get better resilience against injuries that way? Now, let's get back to that straw man argument again. I agree, no one is using cones all the time in practice, but personally, seeing 90-minute practices consisting of drills that have no meaningful decision making for the best part of 70 minutes, I want to see what the research is saying, so I'm not just talking out of my arse. What I found was that at best, in elite academies, 20% of practices consist of drill-based activities and 60% of games-based activities. At worst, and more common at the grassroots level, drill-based non-active decision-making activities make up for more than 40% of practice time, and it used to be 60%. So, is it a strawman argument? Well, you can make that decision yourself. I have linked to all of the studies referenced in the description below, so if you have a read, you can easily find them there. I hope you learned something, or that you at least were made to think slightly outside your usual box today. Maybe next game day you'll see those invisible moments for what they really are. Your kid being the master chef who just needs the right environment to cook in. If you would like to see more videos like this, YouTube recommends you watch this one next. Thanks for watching. See you next time.